In today's video, we are going to talk about some top Indian mythological fiction books, which are those books that are so popular that thousands of people are reading them. Let's talk about that today. A while ago, actually 2 years ago, I made a similar video and highlighted the top books in the genre. And 2 years later, it just feels like they have been dethroned and some newer books are now at the top. Now, they may not stay at the top the previous ones, but they're still really, really good, especially Shiva Trilogy by Amish, Kevin Mitchell's Kalki Trilogy, and Palace of Illusions by Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni, and a few more of these books are really good, still so good. But what are these new books? What are they about? Let's talk about that, but before we move forward, do subscribe to the channel for more bookish videos. At number 1, there's Samsara by Saksham Garg. The book is being called India's answer to Harry Potter. Well, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan and I'm very doubtful that this may really be like India's answer to Harry Potter. I just feel like it's just not possible, but I'm personally very, very excited to read this book. I have heard so many great things about this. And for the first time ever, I would say go read the blurb of the book because it's actually really well written. It piques your interest and lets you find out the story once you pick up the book. Like sometimes the blurb really gives away the entire story, not the case with this one. And just what it gives, like it makes you feel so good. As a quick hint, in the story, a bunch of people are kidnapped from modern day India and transported to hidden valleys of Himalayas where they end up on a mission and need to go on a journey that many can't survive. Sounds really exciting, right? And it's already a book that many book lovers have picked and read already. What about you? Next up is the Hidden Hindu Trilogy. Actually, both Samsar and the Hidden Hindu Trilogy are like these books that have like dominated the genre in last 1-2 years. They are everywhere. I actually ended up picking this trilogy myself. The book is written by a now very well-known author and an internet celebrity, Akshat Gupta. It's about this Agori who claims to be alive since Ramayana and Mahabharata, and in the very beginning of the book, he's captured and tortured to blurt out his truth. But why? And what dangerous situations await in this character's journey? That's what you have to find out in this book series. At the time of making this video, I have read the first two books in this series and I'm currently reading the third one. And honestly, to me, it's kind of a disappointment. Like, I love the plot, it's fresh and it's so interesting. But first of all, it shouldn't have been a trilogy. It could have been one book or at max a duology. It just doesn't have enough content to be split into three books, and yet it was. Most of the time in India, a trilogy is a business decision made to just rake in more money from the readers, and this is fine. Authors should earn way more than Bollywood celebrities who are mostly a product of nepotism and lack much talent. But only when these books have enough content. Like, you want to do a trilogy, make sure that story is big enough for a trilogy. I mean, is that too much to ask for from the authors? Anyways, secondly, the book lacks that flair of writing. Like, it's just plot and story dropped into the pages. You don't enjoy the writing, the art. You don't have much to feel for the characters, their arcs, their trajectory, and their existence is just not compelling enough. See, if you are a 19 or 20 something person looking for their next mythological fiction, I'm 100% sure you'll love this book. But, as you get older, you'll realize how little time you have left on earth and you want to spend it reading the best of the best books, not something that's average or a little above average. That's where I am coming from when I say the Hidden Hindu trilogy is kind of a disappointment for me. But hey, you don't have to agree with me at all about this, okay? Anyway, the third book is Mahagatha 100 Tales from the Purans by Satyarth Nayak. This book, I mean, I knew about it when it was published, but I hadn't expected it to become such a big hit. But I'm so pleasantly surprised and happy about this one. Why? Because finally we have books and stories that hopefully go beyond just Ramayana and Mahabharata. This book compiles 100 mythological tales from ancient texts. There are several popular and then several lesser known stories compiled into this illustrated book. Again, it's a book I feel very excited about as a mythology books lover. I plan to read this book soon. What about you? Next up is Forest of Enchantments by Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni. Well, in the Hindi version of the video that I did last 2-3 years ago, I mentioned Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni's Palace of Illusions. That's a book that is a Mahabharata retelling from Draupadi's perspective, and honestly, that remains like one of the top three Indian mythological fiction books ever. But the same author has recently come out with The Forest of Enchantments. This is a Ramayan's retelling with Sita as the main character, and really it focuses on the female characters from the Ramayana. This author mostly writes books that feature like strong female characters. So if you're looking for a book like that, check out this author. I personally am delaying reading this book because honestly, like I said 2-3 years ago, I'm exhausted with reading Ramayana and Mahabharata retellings or reimaginings. There's so much more in our history, mythology, and culture that we could write books about. I need authors to focus on that. And really, that's why I haven't picked up this book yet. But as soon as this feeling of like having read too many Ramayana and Mahabharata retellings goes away, which I feel like, I'm almost getting out of it, but as soon as this goes away, I will pick up this book. Next, check out books by Kavita Kane. I have actually done a whole like author spotlight video on Kavita Kane and her books. I'll link it down below in the description in case you want to check it out, okay? Kavita Kane has written several books inspired from Indian mythology. Her most popular one is Karan's Wife, which is Mahabharata retelling. But thankfully, she has written more books. For example, there's Menka's Choice, which is a story based on the famous Apsara Menka. I'm not sure how much of her story you know already, but I do recall hearing about it when I was younger. There's also Saraswati's Gift, which is a story about goddess Saraswati. And there are a few more books like that she has written. Personally, I'm not quite sold on Kavita Kane's writing, honestly. I tried reading Karan's Wife and just couldn't finish that book, and unfortunately, I felt it was like both the story and the writing. But I think it's too soon for me to decide and just like be like, I don't want to read Kavita Kane, okay? I feel like I need to read or at least try more of Kavita Kane's work before I can tell you how I really feel finally. But until then, let's try and read some of her works, okay? Let me know if you have read any of Kavita Kane's books down below in the comments, okay? Another top Indian mythological fiction book is written by the very famous author Sudha Murthy. The book's name is The Daughter from a Wishing Tree. These are some unusual tales about the women in mythology. Again, I'm interested to read this book, and Sudhamurthy has written more books that focus on tales from Indian mythology, and she writes for kids, which make these books suitable for both kids and people like you and me who love good stories and who do not care about the age. Age is just a number. Anyway, another book on Indian mythology that I want to highlight today is actually a series of books, and it's written by an American author who has talked about Indian mythology through this adventure story. This book is actually presented by Rick Riordan, yes, the author of the Percy Jackson series and Heroes of Olympus series, which I love. Now, the first book in this series is called Arusha and the End of Time. It's written by this author called Roshni Chokshi and was first of the many Rick Riordan Presents imprint books. What is that? Well, after Rick Riordan's massive success over writing Greek mythological fiction books that make great adventure stories and fantasy novels, Disney Hyperion Publisher decided to launch a whole line of books which will be inspired from various mythologies, from various countries and cultures. And these books are supposed to be just like how Rick Riordan has written Percy Jackson, Heroes of Olympus, and stuff like that. So, this Arusha novel is like the first of 5 books in this series based around Indian mythology. The book follows Arusha, who has been imagined as the reincarnated form of Arjun. And in the book, Arusha has to fight this villain Sleeper while trying to find the other 4 Pandavas. Like I said, there are total 5 books in the series, and only thought in my head about this is how soon can I pick up these books? Don't this sound so exciting? I'll tell you what, if this video crosses 10,000 views, I'll pick these 5 books the very next day and read them back to back and do a reading vlog about it. Deal or no deal? And just like that, we are at the end of this video. But before you go, check out Vivek Debroy. I mean, if you're not into reading the reimaginings or fantasy tales from Indian mythology, and if you just want to read the actual stories, you may want to pay extra attention to this part of the video. Vivek Debroy has translated several ancient Indian texts. Like he has translated Mahabharata into English in 10 volumes. Other works he has translated include Vishnu Puran, Shiv Puran, Brahman Puran, Markandeya Puran, and Bhagavad Puran. He has also translated Ramayana in unabridged form. What's unabridged? That is, he hasn't omitted any stories or passages to shorten the length of the translation of the actual Ramayana. But you know which book I found very interesting of this author? It's called Saram and Her Children, and it's about dogs. Yes, it's about the presence of dogs in Hindu mythology. Like the most recognized dog in Hindu mythology is the one that walked with the Pandavas after the Mahabharat war, and it was actually like Dharam in disguise. However, the author has highlighted several more references to dogs in ancient texts and really weave together this account of presence of dogs in Hinduism and also all the misconceptions around it. I'm like really keen to read this book and find out more about this, mainly because I see so many people hating dogs while I'm a natural dog lover, but also I have heard from my parents all my life that they are to be worshipped, and respected and cared for. Then why are so many people, I'm sure most of them are religious and worship God or at least fear God, why are these people still being cruel to dogs? Would I be able to find the answers through this book? Let's see. But for you, for now, this was the whole video in which I have introduced you to some of the top Indian mythological fiction books of this time. I'm sure some books you knew already, but there are some books that are new to you that you found through this video. For that, hit a thumbs up and leave me a comment, because that's the only way I can get your feedback on the video. And that's also the only way YouTube can know that you liked my video and want to watch more of my videos. So please hit a thumbs up and leave a comment. And thanks so much for watching. This is Manpi signing off. I'll be back with another video very soon.